I have a very special guest all the way from Bavaria, Germany. She is an artistic creator and is devoted to bringing more beauty, love, flow, and magic into this world. She mentors as well as has her own podcast show called From Fear to Flow. So I want to welcome the divinely guided Sunny. How are you today?
Hi, Tina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and I'm very well. Thank you.
That's fantastic. And yes, I'm excited because there's not many people that I actually have a conversation with that knows what you know and what I know at the
Oh,
same time.
that's so cool. That's so cool to hear. Yeah, I'm so excited as well.
Yeah, so I just want to talk to you, and I know you have a little story about yourself and the struggles you've had
Yeah.
with addiction, and I know there was like some food disorder. I think you said from ages 17 to 33. And I just want to know how you're able to turn that struggle into who you are now, which who is something that you've always been, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
true.
love to hear your story.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I'm actually a little bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie, because it's going to be the first time that I actually tell my story. I guess, I told a little bit on my own podcast, but not too much detail. So when I recorded that, I was like, oh, I really didn't say that much like about what really went on. So I think there's still a little bit of a, it is tough to talk about this stuff because it's just so personal, and it's something that for all my life I tried to hide. And so now to put it out there and just to put it on the internet for everyone to hear, it's like really scary, right? But right. So what happened is that, well, my parents got divorced when I was 14, and I was just for me, that was really like, I did not know, like I didn't have an idea that that might happen. And for me, it was just like this shock. And I somewhat like lost everything in like one, it just seemed like this very small amount of time where, so I have two sisters, and my oldest sister would move away. She moved in with her boyfriend, and my younger sister stayed with my dad, and I went to my mom's. And then I lost my best friend because everything was just, I moved away. And so it was just, everything was just kind of like turning to shit, really, And I think for me, I just didn't know how to cope with those feelings. I was 14 when that happened, so I was a teenager. And before that, my life was just great. I loved being a teenager. I had so much fun going to school. I remember just having the best time at school with the boys and everything, but not just the boys, just I was loving life. And then when that happened, I just felt into this hole where I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. And I actually became a goth and would just like dress black all the time. And I actually started self-harming. So I would um, cut myself. And that's how basically I think how like an addiction in itself started, which was that I felt like I needed to hurt myself. And later on, I obviously found out that, I just wanted to feel, and I also definitely wanted some attention for sure. But it was really something that I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed hurting myself because I think I was just so overwhelmed with the emotions that I had felt that, but no one was listening, kind of, because everyone was having their own stuff going on with the whole divorce thing. So I just swallowed all of my emotions, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. And so, yeah, at some point then I had a boyfriend, my first boyfriend, and I was kind of a late bloomer as well. I mean, not that late, but I was like 17 when I had my first boyfriend. And I think that's when the misery like started in terms of how my eating disorder started, because I never felt like good enough. So, and he would also, Nico, if you're listening to this, I mean, I know we're good now, but
That's
um,
funny.
Yeah, no, we are good terms now. That's cool. But he was a horrible first boyfriend, and I think he would agree. And he would just, be very interested in other women as well. And I was just so in love with him, and I was just giving my all to him. And it was just because I was very attached, and I was so desperate for someone to love me. And so I would just, yeah, really cling on to him. And he was like, okay, cool, but there's also this girl and that girl and whatever. And so it wasn't a fun relationship at all. And I think that's when when I found out that the person that I loved so much, and it was like my only person really, and the first time I ever felt this intense love for someone else, right? That's not your family. Um, so that just broke me when I found out that he was basically cheating on me and doing things behind my back. And then I think, when my eating disorder started, because when you don't feel good enough as a woman and you already have all of these emotions that you're not letting out and suppressing, and then this happens, you're like projecting it onto yourself. You're like, okay, I'm not good enough, and there's something wrong with me, the way I look. And so I would starve myself. I think that's how it started. I would just start starving myself. And I think all of us women have been there at some point. I mean, don't want to say all of us, but I think
I
many can relate.
totally, totally.
Yeah. And so, but then, yeah, so and then actually at the beginning, I was starving myself so much, and then I actually became anorexic. And then, but that didn't last very long because I really loved eating. And so yeah, it turned into bulimia at some point. And that's when, yeah, that's when it started. And then honestly, it went on till last year. So it really was something that I was doing continuously over 17 years. And sometimes it was better, sometimes I would do it less. I would have different boyfriends throughout those years, and I would always end up telling them at some point, but the way they dealt with it was, you can't put that on someone. And it's like, it's tough, and people don't know how to deal with that stuff. And also they can't really help you anyway, because it's your shit, and you have to be ready to want to change. And I would tell them, and then there's were saying like, okay, so stop. And I was like, okay. And then and then obviously that wouldn't work. And then they would like ask, so are you still doing that? And I was like, no, of course not. And so yeah, so it would still go on all these years. So that's pretty much that. Wow, I've been talking long.
No, that was great. Yes, thanks for sharing that, because it is important to hear everybody's story, because everyone feels that they're the only ones going through something, but in reality, we are all going through something. We are all had some trauma in our life. We have all are still struggling somehow, and it's never perfect here on the planet Earth, ever, ever.
Right.
And yeah, there's so much influence when it comes to our world and how we should live, how we should think, how we should talk, how we should look, who we should be hanging out with, what should we be eating. Like everything's so controlled in this world that we don't know who we are. And we tend to go to other things to make us feel better. Like, like you had mentioned, like cutting yourself, because that does release something that makes you
Yeah.
feel good. Some dopamine, I think. And then there's also the image, the body image that we're have to be or whatever. No, everybody's body is different, and that's so beautiful, I think. And then also too, just how we are as a human. We're just here to have fun and learn and just
Mhm.
love. And I did hear your beautiful story on your podcast, and I was very wowed at the fact that you were able to discover who you became through an experience that you had with the shaman. Can you talk a little bit
Oh,
about that?
yes, sure. Yeah, okay. So, um, I was living in London at the time. So now I'm in Germany, and I was living in London for 6 years. And London is just a crazy place well, I come from the countryside, I come from Lower Bavaria. So there's really not much going on other than, people go to the same places all the time and drink a lot of beer, which is fun too, and I'm not going to shit on that. But it's just, and then you go, like, I'm just like this girl from the countryside going to London. And that's when I was introduced into the wild party life and the drugs and everything. And but anyways, I would do like, all of those bad drugs. And but at some point I was like, no, this is not, I think it's just this, it's destroying me and it's not a good thing. And but I came to this place where I was like, I was starting to feel really, with my eating disorder as well, which I had all of this time. And I was just like, I'm not happy. Like something is missing here. Like I'm just not, like, I'm not living up to my potential. I know that I could do more. Like I was doing a job that I was like not really, I mean, it was comfortable, but I didn't really grow. I didn't evolve, and I would just be stuck. And I felt so bad. And then my my boyfriend at the time, he had this experience. He found out through a friend, like, yeah, there's the shaman guy, and she really thinks really highly of him, and he's like doing like, so he helps, and like he does ceremonies where you smoke DMT. And so he was like, oh, I want to do it. And so he did it. And he said like it was absolutely life-changing. And I just saw him like coming home and everything. I'm like, what's going on with you? And so he definitely had this experience. And so I was like, I want to do this too. So I did. And it, for me as well, was incredibly life-changing because I met my higher self. So I had this vision. So there was multiple things going on, and it's like a long process and stuff. But the main thing that would happen was that I had this connect. So my third eye was opened, and it wasn't just like a mental thing. Of course it was, but it was also physical. Like I could feel it open. It was a physical experience. So it's not just something that you think, okay, so she thinks her third eye open. It's like an experience that I felt. And from that day on, so I had this. I was tripping, and then I was asking my purpose. And it's so funny because now I have this podcast called From Fear to Flow. And basically what I was told was that I'm here to, first of all, raise the frequency of the planet, and that I should help people to guide people away from fear, and to tell them that they have to let go of the fear, or that we all need to let go of the fear if we want to be like get to this beautiful place where everyone is in bliss. So where everyone can live just this magical life of just feeling love all the time. And that's by getting rid of fear. And that was that day that I was told that. And and like, I mean, looking back, I'm like, I don't know what told me that. And and you could, I mean, I can't tell you for sure, but what I know within is that this is my higher self. Like this is my guidance, my inner guidance, my higher vibrational version of me. And so I was told that, and I remember I wrote down, there was many more things, and it's just this crazy journey on. But I wrote, like, I still have the notes of the day that I wrote down and all the things that I was told and shown, and it was really beautiful. And yeah, from that day on, I've just felt so connected, and I feel like, yeah, I'm just so in tune. I'm so in tune with the infinite. Like I'm guided all the time, and I know it. And when I have a question, something very major in life, or not just very major, just anything really, I'm just sitting down with myself, and I'm really like connecting to my higher self, and then I get the answers really. And so it's just such a beautiful way of living, because I feel so guided, I feel so protected. And I think we all are, it doesn't need a DMT trip. It doesn't need any of that, it's within you. It's always within you, and it always has been. It's just about that I think on that day, I started to feel the connection to my body, to myself, to all of the other energetic body that I have. And so, yeah, it was this day of connecting to myself. And I think we can all do it just through intention.
Yeah, that's so absolutely right. 100% intention. And if we just have our intention set on love, everything would be such a beautiful place. And and talking about how everyone experiences things differently, like you had experienced that through DMT, and I've heard about it before. I've never tried it before, but I've tried many other
Yeah.
things. So I understand that realm where it comes to like, different like mind trip or whatever. And I just discovered more of like that love, that wow, there's something bigger than that. But then I would feel crappy afterward and not feel
Yes.
good. And I just feel worse at my normal state. But once you find yourself and know who you are, and for me, it was going to start serving people, going to church for me, and just being actively involved in like these communities and everything with prayer and whatever that is aligned and whatever you trust within yourself, that's where you need to be. So when people like maybe say, "Oh, you need to follow Jesus," or you need to do this, it's not maybe for everybody. It was for me. That's how I was able to, but it's not for everybody, and then that's okay. You really have to like listen to your inner self and let
Yeah.
that lead, right?
I also had a experience with cheeses. I also went down because that day that I started to be so connected, I knew that okay, there is a God, there's more to life. And that's when I really started digging, and just like, because before I never asked any questions. For me, I was just living life, and I'd never really thought about it's so weird, isn't it? We just like go about our lives, and we're just so stuck in that like daily routine, and then you don't like wake up and think, what does it all mean? I mean, I guess some people do. That for sure
Yeah.
happens, but for me it didn't. And it wasn't until like this day when I was like, okay, wait, I think I need to ask some questions, like, where do we come from? What is it all about? And then like, oh my God, like it started this whole, like, I'm still, I'm still on the search. I mean, to find answers and stuff, but I basically have my answers, that how connected we are and everything. But but I also did like I was starting to read the Bible, which I had never done before. For me, it was just something that it was another thing that I was led to, was guided to. And I also felt that Jesus is with me, within me. And I also had like a spiritual, I can't remember what it was called, but I was working with someone who did like spiritual baptism. And that was also really like, he saw things in my aura and all of that. And but he was very connected to Jesus. And so I definitely know, like, for me, like that feeling of, I think Jesus is within us, and it is like part of us. And I think, like you said, like there's so many ways of looking at it, and everyone can believe whatever they want to believe. But for me, it's about what you experience, what you feel within. And for me, definitely there is this Christed version that's within you. And that when you connect to that, it's just so beautiful. And what you said as well, just like love everywhere. When you start, like you said, when you started to go to church and you're getting so involved, and you just put love everywhere and you do everything with love, that's really the game changer, I think. So for example, today I was in IKEA and was like doing shopping with my sister and stuff, and it's just many people, everyone is stressed, it's super crowded and whatever. And I just had the best time, because I wasn't wishing myself away, because I was thinking, oh my God, I'm helping my sister, and that fulfills me. And although there's like other places I could be right now that are probably more like relaxed or whatever. I was like, you know what? I'm exactly where I need to be because I just love being there for my loved ones. And
Yeah.
when you work from this place, then everything becomes enjoyable, no matter what you
Mhm.
do. So this is just so beautiful.
Yes, and thinking about this as the Christ consciousness, that
Yeah.
consciousness, if we have that, the Earth is changing. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
we are in
Yeah.
3D right now, and I don't think people understand what 3D is. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Matrix because this is the only opportunity I'm sure I probably get a chance to talk about because not many people really know. They know the movie, Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves, right? The red
Yeah.
pill, the blue pill, like, they always say, oh, get red pill, the rabbit hole. There is so much more to the story, and I'm just so happy I'm meeting you because I feel like I can finally talk to somebody about that. So we have the 3D, and we're going into the fifth dimension, and this is also biblical as well. This is called the New Earth,
Yes.
and we're living it right now, and not many people are realizing. But I wanted to explain what the Matrix is, and I wanted to get your opinion on this because it was something that was very neat, and I want to read it to you. So, escaping the Matrix, right? So, what is the Matrix? So, um, right now we are playing a game that someone else created and that there is an illusion of you leveling up in this game and actually allowing your life to be better. But in reality, the more you are leveling up in this game, the more you are helping the people or beings that created this game. So start creating your own game, create your own reality and actively manifest coming from a place within where your heart is, which is love.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful. That's really cool that I think if when people listen to that, that they can probably really resonate with that. I love it.
Yes, yeah, and so because there's a weird that's why we have so many distractions around us.
Yes. And I think
Because
that's on purpose as well, right?
yes, yes. It
Yeah.
is
And
definitely
yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead. Oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
Um, yeah, I think when I had that realization that also, that we are the co-creators, that we can, it's not like that we were created and now we are powerless. It's the opposite. We are so powerful, but we are not being reminded of that. Like the people in power really don't want us to know because then they wouldn't be in power for much longer, right? So but the thing is, like, we don't have to be in power, if you know what I mean, because we are already in power, because we are the power. And it's so funny to me because when I realized the power of the mind, like it's just the magic happens, when you take um when you take your life in your own hands, like, okay, wait a second, what is it that I really want? And I think, first of all, it also it has to come from a place where you are kind of already are in a good place of mind, where you're like, okay, I'm content with where I'm at. Because as soon as you want to really want to change something so badly because you're like, oh, it's so uncomfortable being here. Well, I mean, that's a good starting point, it's a good trigger for you to get out of there. But just to accept, I think it's about the acceptance of where you're at, and just to be okay with what is, and love yourself from where you're at. And then when that is such a good place of starting your manifestation, your co-creation, because when you're just in peace within, in alignment within, then everything just falls into place. Like there's this, literally, you just have to think about something. Okay, this is, I want to have this in my life. And then literally, like, the next day or whatever. I mean, it depends on what it is and how big it is and whatnot. But um, it's just like all the synchronicity show up in your life, and you're really like, okay, this is really happening. It's not just me like being crazy. It's really like I see signs everywhere, and I don't know what it's like for you, but
Yeah, I mean, you'll see some numbers. I call them angel numbers. They'll be like,
yeah,
555, 777, and you'll be seeing like patterns. You'll have deja vu, because there are actually different um, realities.
yeah,
This may be too much for
yeah,
some people who are listening to this, but yes, and some of us are at our lower self. Some of it
yeah,
is at our higher self, and it's going on because we're in this quantum world. Like,
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible
definitely.
stuff. And during 2020, that was my awakening. Actually, 2019, I would say.
Same, same.
Yeah, I would say, and I knew something was going on in 2015, but I didn't want to admit it. And then I was
Okay.
then getting into my sobriety in 2017. And then little by little, then I was really wanting to learn about the Book of Revelations. I was so fascinated by that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, likewise.
right? Yeah, I was
Yes.
watching
And
YouTube
it's
videos.
yeah, and I think that's so, and it's why I was kind of led to reading the Bible. I was like, wait, why am I now suddenly wanting to read the Bible? I never wanted to read the Bible in my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the parallels are really fascinating.
Yeah, so that one, and then it then led me to my mentor, and then she kind of helped me open my eyes. She was a mindset mentor, so maybe
Wow.
she activated my third eye.
Yeah,
I would say
maybe.
maybe, because it could be people,
Could
it
be
could be
anything.
experiences, yeah.
Mm.
And then I really dug, and I'm not kidding you. So like I was literally researching everything and anything because I wanted to know the truth, and I was
Mhm.
referring it to scripture, and I was then looking at today's timeline and I was putting the pieces together and I'm like, this makes sense. Very sad. And I was very sad for in 2020, 2021 because no one believed me and no one didn't understand. And I'm like, why am I like the only person here that is going experiencing this? Why only me? And why? I've always been the black sheep of the family. I had the piercings, I had the tattoos, I had the, because I'm the baby of the family too. So, I mean, okay, there's something different about me, and I'm experiencing all these different things. Why? Now I know why, is to share this with people. And let me just give you an example, everybody, okay? Whoever's listening to this. Okay, we have Sunny here. She's all the way from Germany, right? I'm here in America, and yet we still have the same experiences and we're crossing paths. If that's just not enough evidence that our souls are connected to different other souls and beings, and this is just proof, right, Sunny? Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And it's just like all those fun, like so-called coincidences. Like there are no coincidences in my book, you know? It's just like everything, I think everything is divinely guided and everything is just like this superpower, like what God is, like it's just it's the magic of just how everything falls into place and like just how people get together and you hear the most amazing stories of how people meet somehow somewhat that's kind of not even possible and it's like and they are like meant for each other and all of that and you can't tell me that's a coincidence, like come on.
Yeah, I always say that too. There are no coincidences. I said there are no coincidences. I would
Yeah,
tell my husband. I would tell like it's like
so
there is
true.
not, and I felt so
And
alone. Yeah,
yes,
during
yes,
that
that's
time.
also that what I wanted to reply to because it was the same for me, like exactly what you said. First of all, the black sheep of the family, you know, and I think, and then also just like really for me it was the same. I think it was mostly in 2021 when I felt really, really lonely because I was still in London at the time, but kind of because of my beliefs that have like for me it was just really like this very short amount of time where suddenly I was like first I was not believing in anything and then suddenly in this short amount of time was like okay wait a second, like I believe in God now, we're in like a video game and we're like going to the fifth dimension or whatever and everyone's just like Sunny, what? And I
Yeah.
mean and then it was really hard because first of all you are doubting yourself, you're like what, you're really thinking am I losing it now, am I absolutely crazy, and then you also as the typical like black sheep of the family you already have this like within you anyway this whole thing about there's something wrong with me, I'm not like everyone, why do I deal with stuff so much worse than others, you know, I was thinking about this so often, like my sister, I have two sisters and they seem at least to cope with life you know with more ease, let's put it like that, but they kind, I mean they had the same upbringing and whatnot and I'm just like why am I so sensitive and why can't I just be as strong and whatever, but I think you know like I said in my podcast as well, I think it all had a reason because if I didn't go through all of this, then we wouldn't be sitting here, and I wouldn't be that coach, that mentor for other people, and that person, that guide that is showing other people how to get out of their addiction, how to get out of their problematic way of living. Or not, I don't want to call it problematic, but just like, when they're not at ease, because I know they're not at ease. And it's just so beautiful to be able to help those people out of there. But you can only do that when you've experienced it yourself. Because I'm not going to go to a person who is like, okay, so this is how we're going to get you out of addiction, and they have never been in there. Like, how are you supposed to know? You have no fucking idea.
That is very true. I mean, people have to experience what they experience in life, and that way they're healing themselves, and then they can help people. And then I love serving people, and I'm just like, I love seeing people smile, and I laugh all the time on my podcast. I'm always laughing, and probably get annoys people, but I don't care if it does, because it's just me. That's how
Yeah,
I
I'm
am.
so with you. It's the same on my podcast, like, or just like talking to you now. Obviously, like you think about, oh, can I say this? Can I say that? And whatever. I'm just like, I don't want to censor myself. I'm just like gonna be myself. And if people like it, that's amazing. And if not, then whatever. Who
Then it's still
cares?
amazing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because you're going to be fine no matter what. And I think this is where people
Yeah.
are going to be evolving into, is where they're not going to care about anybody's opinion anymore, because everyone's going to be on the same frequency and the same vibration. And by the way, audience, we do run off frequency vibrations and as well.
Yep.
Yeah, frequency vibration, and just the universe is incredible. Like I think that's why I love like music. That's what tunes me, is my spirit, is because I feed off that frequency, and I listen to it and I hear it. I think I'm audio voyant, actually, because I hear a lot of ringing in my ears, and I hear
Yeah.
things when there's like a fan on. I'm hearing like conversations happening from who knows what. And
Really? You hear that?
I hear it. Yeah, and I know I'm not
Wow.
crazy, because
Yes.
I mean, I was in the mental hospital for a little bit, but I'm not crazy. I'm
No.
just me. And everyone has these
Yeah.
gifts. They have these gifts, and they don't know how to show these gifts and express
Yes.
these gifts. Like everything that you guys see on TV, it's like it's real.
Right.
I think it's real when they say, "Oh, superpower." People do have actually powers, but they just need to tap into it. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you have any type of special gifts that are in you that you've discovered through this process?
Well, actually, I'm like very similar to you. So, but the way I connect to my higher self, what I feel a lot. So I just really am able to feel other people's feelings, which I think that's also the reason why back in the day it was just really hard for me, because I would feel everyone else's stuff and I think it's my own, and then just get overwhelmed, and not knowing how to deal with that. But now it's actually, I see it as my superpower, because I'm like, I'm talking to someone and I'm like, yeah, you're lying to me, I know it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I remember I had like one situation with my ex-boyfriend, and he was saying something, and I knew that he was lying, but he was also lying to himself. Like, it wasn't like he wanted to lie to me, like he wanted to lie to me. He was just like lying to himself, and I knew that he was, I was just like, no, this is not how you actually feel. I feel that that's not how you actually feel. So you can say whatever you want to say, but it's not true. So that's definitely like a superpower of mine. But I think, yeah, many people are empathetic. But I also do hear, well, the way I like my higher self, I talk to my higher self all the time. So like in my head, and I I know how to distinguish between, of course, like everyone has voices in their heads, like if you want to put it like that. But um, I, I think I have great discernment of what is what. And yeah, I think that's really it. Oh, and also what you said with dance, like music. Oh my God, like I feel that is really crazy to me. When I started to feel really connected, I mean, I always loved dancing, but I kind of didn't when I was like a teenager and like in my early 20s, not because like dancing wasn't cool. Like I was more like, oh my, that's weird. It's where I come from, which is so weird. And I'm like, guys, dancing is literally the coolest, like the best thing you could possibly do. Like, why is it weird? I don't know, but anyway. um but yeah, so but now I just love dancing, everything. And but what happened is that I would get like this weird like now again, like I have like weird hand gestures coming through that I'm just like I'm doing something with my hands like this, and I'm just like fiddling around, and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what that is. I don't know what it means, but somewhat I feel like it's like light language or something, you know, how people speak like, but people, a lot of people like speak it where they literally speak in tongues, right? Which you also have in the Bible. So they have like the voice of their soul coming through. Basically, that's what light language is, because we are light in our essence. So they can tap into that energy of that language of light, which they speak it. But for me, that hasn't happened. Like that's not something I can do, or yet, I don't know. But for me, it's like hand gestures and stuff, and it's so weird, and like I don't know what it means. But sometimes I'm just like walking down the stairs and I'm like da, 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 da. I don't,
Cute.
okay, and I just walking down, I'm like, Sanny, what are you doing? I don't know.
Yeah, that's your soul speaking. Like when, well, like my mom, for example, she loves singing, and her husband, they love listening to people perform and their voice, and they are really loving that. But when your like hairs are sticking up and you're getting those goosebumps, or you feel the hair on the back of your neck rise, that is your soul speaking to you, because it's just like, hey, this feels great.
Yeah,
That's you. And what a
yeah,
beautiful thing. And there's so many different people with so many different gifts, and they just it makes me so sad that they don't know how to tap into it. And I really truly think they need to surrender to whatever is pulling them back from being their true authentic self, whatever is pulling them back. Yes, and I just wish that they would just pass through that and just find their higher self.
yeah. But that's the thing, like they will when the time is right. Like this is also the way I look
Totally.
at things. Like for me, it also, you know, it took me over 15 years to get where I'm now. And I'm like, okay, I
Right.
guess it had to take that long for some reason, you know? And it's like everyone is on their own journey. And that's also I had something I really had to learn, is because when you first like wake up, that's how I like to call it. I'm like, okay, now I need to tell everyone. And I'm like, okay, guys, so this is how it works. And like, you gotta do this, and you gotta do this, and this, and then you're gonna feel better and whatnot. But if people are not open for that, and they're just like not there because they just can't access that for whatever reason, it's the reason is divine, you know, it's not that someone's
Yeah.
better than someone else, or it's just different and it's their own soul's path, and it's perfectly fine. But so I kind of had to step away from wanting to convince other people of my own shit. And there's like, just Sunny, because it doesn't, you can say whatever you want. They're not listening anyway, and they just think you're crazy. And yeah, so I just like, okay, let everyone else, you know, just get there when they get there. And but also I really think that, you know, that thing that you think about yourself that is the most triggering to you, the most like the thing you struggle with the most, is actually also your superpower, because
Yeah.
through that you're gonna grow so much, you're gonna get out of it the other end, and you're gonna when you transcend this thing that you're struggling with so much, this is where the magic lies, this is where everything starts to happen for you. And I think that's also why, for me, I've always felt so much, and I saw it as a curse, although I wasn't like consciously aware of it. But for me, I was just always like, why is everything so heavy for me? And it's because I also felt everyone else's shit, you know. So of course it's heavy for me. And so now that I know this, I'm like using it to my advantage and be like, okay, I know that you're feeling like shit today. How can I help you? Or, you know, so I'm turning that around and using it as something beautiful. And I think that really goes with everything. Like you can find your gift by looking at the things that you struggle with the most.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And that is a gift in itself. Like, you're right. You're totally right, because w- how powerful it is that you've come through that. And then
Exactly.
you're like, because we're light, and then we went into the dark. But then trying to find that light again, that is a powerful experience. And it's
Yeah.
just like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so awesome that, you know, I was always thinking, why do I have to go through this? Like, why me? Why me? But now it's like the reason, like now I'm sitting here and I wouldn't have been able to feel that transformation. Like if it's always been like kind of okay, kind of, it's just like mediocre and not too bad, not too great, whatever, it's just like you're not able to experience that intense transformation, which is going to make you feel so proud of yourself that you made it in all those years that you were struggling so deeply, and you were like, I will never get over this, and now you got over it. And so, I feel like even if you're struggling with something for all of your life, for 40 years or whatever, and then you change, then you turn things around, I mean, how proud can you be of yourself?
Yes, you have to give yourself some props for
Yeah.
overcoming that.
Yeah.
Yes. And so when your friends, I mean, I always say, let's just plant seeds. We may not, they may not be at the same level that we're at. And there's levels. There's different levels. And it's okay if they're not there yet, because like I always tell everybody, you'll get there eventually when your body, when your soul is ready to get there, when your spirit is aligned to everything that's supposed to be for you, it'll happen. But I always like to plant
Exactly.
little seeds, and what better way than telling, like you, for example, telling your story out there, and then maybe it'll resonate to somebody, and then click some, then like put a light bulb over their head, and they're like, oh yeah, oh, well, let me look into this, and then they can do their own research, and then they can just discover.
Yeah.
And you said you were reading some books and that you kind of like fell in love with, and one was from Dolores Cannon. I just kind of discovered her recently, like literally
Oh
like
yeah.
within a month or so. And I think I was just watching like TikTok videos, and she was be coming up on my like my thing, and I'm just like, who is this lady, and how come I've never seen it? Because she's pretty old, so
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
she's very wise, and I'm totally aligned. Can you tell me more about her?
Yeah. So yeah, it was actually her. So Dolores Cannon, she actually is not alive anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, no, but I also only
Whoops.
picked this up. That's okay. I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, she's still with us, obviously.
Yes,
Um,
that's
but,
true.
and she's left like such a big impact. So for me, it was really her stuff that I came across, that I don't remember watching that with like on YouTube. I was watching her three waves of volunteers. Well, she's written so many books. I don't even know how many books, but I mean, honestly, I mostly watched YouTube videos as well, because that's just where you get the summary, and like watching her interviews online where she talks and everything. So you get a really good idea of what it is. So that she talks about 5D Earth and the new Earth and stuff. And so her, like when I first heard her talking about those things, so she would she was a hypnotherapist, and she would do past life regressions with people, or just people who agreed to go into hypnosis, and those people were acting as a channel for other higher beings to come through. And she did this like with thousands of people, so it's not just like a few people. She did it with many, many people. And basically, so and then what she gathered, the information that she gathered, she put in her books. And the overall, like kind of the gist of it is that we are heading, like we are at these times, in these times that we're in, we are heading towards a higher vibrational earth. And so that's amazing news because we're
Yeah.
like, ascending, right, in consciousness. And I think it's just the time that we're living in. Like if we were born, like there's, and because I believe we live many parallel lives and all of that. So in another reality that we're in right now, we might be descending, like things are gonna go downhill. But thankfully, like where we're in right now, like things are like, so the frequency is increasing, which means because everything is vibration, everything is energy, and certain things vibrate on a certain level. So for example, fear or anger or hate, those emotions, they vibrate on a very low level, and they're very dense emotions. So and when you have a lot of that in you, it's harder for you to feel those elevated emotions like joy and all of that, because when you think about it in terms of energy, when there's so many things that drag you down that are like heavy, then it's harder to experience like that love that you and I feel these days and stuff. And for me, it was really the same. So I was carrying so much of those dense emotions with me that for me, I had to go through this process of letting that stuff go in order to come to get to where I'm at now. And I completely forgot your question.
I don't even know if I had a question. I
Okay.
forgot. We live
Yeah, I
in the
think it was,
moment. We live in the moment. So
yeah,
I
sure.
forget.
But I think
uh,
Dolores Cannon
oh, yeah,
was,
yeah.
so basically, so that's another thing. I think when I came across her things, which is also this emphasis of her, is that what I was shown to let go of the fear that she was told by those higher beings, whatever they might be, that if we have to leave fear behind, because fear is such a low vibration that when we do that, then like everything will fall into place for us. Everything, just like we can manifest anything we want. And for anyone who's listening is like, okay, how am I going to do that or whatever, it's like face your fears, which is just so easily said. But, and by the way, like I'm such a fearful person. Like I'm not speaking from a place of, oh, I'm fearless, I don't have any, like, just like for me these days, I'm really like acknowledging of how fearful I really am. But that's and that's a good thing, I'm not thinking to myself, oh, I'm just going to stay in my comfort zone, but I'm like, okay, this scares me, so I'm going to do it. I'm like, I really don't want to do it, but that's why I'm doing it. And when you do that, that's literally how you transmute your fear, because then you're like, oh, okay, I can do this, it wasn't that bad after all. And then you do this and you become proud of yourself, you start loving yourself, and that's when you get into the higher vibration, and that's when you can really experience this love that we all are.
Yes, you brought up a good point about how you have to get into that uncomfort. And that's the only way I think people, like you said, become less fearful. And they experience more confidence that way. And I know it's hard. Okay, I've definitely got out of my comfort zone. Hey, I was very fearful growing up. I was scared of everything, everything. And that's what the enemy feeds off of. They feed off of fear. And that's where they can then take over, because to be honest with you, who's ruling the earth right now is the enemy. And the
Yeah.
enemy is ruling the earth. So when we feed off that fear as a whole, all of us people, humans, the enemy is winning. So we're
Yeah.
breaking through. I think we're breaking through though, right?
Yeah, that's that, and I think that's what's happened because of the rising vibration, that people, because when we all, like, when the planet, like mother Gaia, like our planet is raising that consciousness, that means everything that is vibrating on a lower level, like fear, is getting moved out of your body, right? Because it doesn't resonate anymore, because we are all one, we are all connected. So therefore, if the planet rises, we are all rising as well. And so when we hold many dense emotions, they then have to come out. And I think that's why I think many people be like, what, have you looked around? Like, like the world is kind of not in a great place and all of that. But it's because all this conflict has to happen, all of this stuff has to come out. We are still, because we're connected in the collective, because we're all one, that we only can move on to this more elevated place when we let go of all of that stuff that's keeping us here. So you can't just like delete that stuff, it has to come out. So that's why it's a bit like wild these days, I guess. But I think if you just look around, but because the reason why I believe all of that is not so much that I like read the books and when I was like, oh yeah, this is what I believe in now. It's because I feel it. And I just feel like everything, for example, for me, starting to question everything and to even wanting to expand my consciousness and stuff like that, that I haven't even thought about before, is, I think, because of the rising frequency. And so many people that I know, like you and me, have or are going through this process of suddenly like asking questions and something I've never done before. And I think that's because of the elevation of the consciousness, and now everyone's like, okay, wait a second, and this is because of we're rising, and it's great. So we're like, it's guys, it's just amazing.
We are living we're living in incredible times right now. And what,
Yeah.
like, and you have to think about this, people, like, Why are you here now? Why wasn't it like back in the maybe like 1800s or so?
And you might be there as well.
Yeah, right. But you're experiencing this right now. And so just think about how incredible it is to be living in this moment and what you can do with all the information you're getting from everybody. Like there's more podcasts now. I think people are listening to more podcasts and they're watching TV because there's so much
Yeah.
propaganda in these commercials and there's so much like false information that is being fed to us. And then a lot of us were believing all of these false ideas and that's how our
Yeah.
identity became. But then once we started like listening to other people's experiences, their stories, and they're sharing things and we're becoming more as a community, and then our Christ conscious level is becoming greater and we are transforming it that way.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Like you just mentioned it. For me, it was actually the same. I like stopped watching TV and started listening to podcasts.
yeah.
And I just did that intuitively because I wouldn't resonate anymore with like TV and stuff. And then just think about it, like what do you see on TV? It's all about fear. It's everything you see is like, oh, there's an earthquake there, then there's like politics, everything. It's just like everything, fear, fear, fear. And then, oh, it's this crisis and energy crisis and all of that. And all you see all the time is fear. And that's where they want us, right? And because, but then if you just do the simple step of switching off your TV and listen to other people, like you said, other people's experiences, because what can be more true than a person telling their own experience? Everyone is different and everyone experiences their own thing, but when you tell me your story, I'm not going to say no, that's not true. I don't believe you, or what you feel isn't right, because that's not for me to say. I might have had a different experience, but I'm not going to doubt what you tell me. I'm not going to doubt your experience. So I think it's just beautiful. That's why I love podcasts so much as well, because I love listening to other people's stories because they are so true and so raw. And I'm like, yeah, this is real life. This is the truth. And whatever I see on TV is like, yeah, I don't believe in that.
Yeah, we stopped resonating with TV. And I think it's just because I'm just done. Like it's not even entertaining anymore. Like I look at these shows that I used to watch. Like I used to watch all those shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. This is like in the 2012, 2010 time. And like everything on like MTV and all this stuff. And it's just caca TV and it's not going to feed your mind. And I should have just
Yeah.
been reading books, but I was very much
Yeah.
like not that way.
Yeah, likewise. I used to watch TV all the time. Even when I was studying, while I was supposed to be in the lectures, I was watching TV. Like I was and watching like shows like you just mentioned. And when you think about it, like what's the word, like what's the value of those shows that you watch? Like when you like watch the shows and you turn off the TV and then you sit down with yourself and like, okay, what did I just gain from that? Like I'm not smarter at all. Like my consciousness is still the same, or I even feel like worse about myself because I watch all these like people in TV. They're supposedly so perfect and have all this money and like they're so successful, and I'm none of that, and I just feel like shit. And I was like, well, yeah, because it's not real life.
It's all an illusion, like I was mentioning earlier. Everything that they're feeding us is fake.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And
true.
like everything is fake. And what needs to be true, you really need to find it true to yourself because everybody experiences different things. And and that's what they want to do is they want to divide us. Like believe it this way and this way, but everybody's thinking differently because they're experiencing things differently. And I think once they understand that everybody, it's okay to be different and it's okay to have different opinions. Like I don't get mad if someone disagreed with me. Be like, great, that means you're
Yeah,
human.
yeah. And it really is the uniqueness that makes us, because the way I see it is that we are all together, we are God, right? All together we make life. We form the collective, we make everything. If it wasn't for you, for you, for you, we're not complete. Everyone is in it and we're all together. And so if anyone would look exactly the same way like the other person or has the exact same beliefs, it's like, well, why would you even be here? Like that you're just a clone of someone else. That's not necessary. Like we need, every single person needs to be exactly the way they are. And in order for us to be more um unique, and to be able to have many different experiences with many different consciousnesses. So this is just like the unique. I really found this beauty in imperfection and beauty in uniqueness, and who's perfect anyway, you know?
Perfectly imperfect.
Yes, exactly.
And then that's a good that's a good thing. And what I was just curious, what would you say now that you know you've experienced what you've experienced and you're at your higher self or getting closer to your higher self or being guided by your higher self to just to self-evolve and love more, what would you say to the young version of you when you were little going through all that trauma, um, when you were 14, when your parents were going through the divorce,
Yeah,
everything?
it's such a good question. I think I would tell little Sunny, it's okay. You are exactly right the way you are. You are perfect the way you are, and you're exactly where you need to be.
So true. And then just take all those experiences that are going to be happening to us.
Exactly. Just to say, okay, and this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. And the fun thing is like for now, because I've been single now for a while and I haven't been dating at all. I was just since my last relationship, I was just really like, okay, I'm you know, I'm just good for now and stuff. And now it's like, okay, I'm getting ready to like, okay, you know, I wouldn't mind to date again and stuff. And I just know that there's a version of me out there already, you know, my future me that's like married and has children. And I am so connected to this version of me already that I know that this will happen for me at some point soon. I don't know when the time is right. But, you know, it's just like this knowing that there is this version of me already out there. And if I can just connect to that version, then it is going to happen. And I don't know, I like to think that back in the day when I was a younger version of me, that I already had like this knowing within somewhere, although I didn't know about it consciously, that things will get better and I will someday be at a place where I'm now.
Yeah, it's where you're at now. And such accomplishments that you have now because you're at where you're at. And it's a beautiful thing because when you look back and for myself, speaking for myself, like I didn't have confidence at all. That's why I resorted to drinking is because I felt that that made me more confident. But in reality, that created some other spirit or being coming inside me and taking over because there's times where I mean I was very violent. People wouldn't people still to this day don't believe me that I was very violent, but I was.
Yeah.
And then just and then a lot of sadness. And then sometimes I'd be very happy and then sometimes I'd be very like I don't want to say promiscuous. Let's just say promiscuous. and
Yeah.
but all that was just fake. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I didn't discover that until I finally said enough is enough. You know, I'm dying and I don't want to die. But your
Yeah.
old self does need to die in order for you to become who you truly are.
That is, yeah, you put that very beautifully. That is really true. Like the versions of you have to die. And so funny you say this because literally last night I went out for the first time since I think, yeah, a year. And like, you know, proper gods, I went to the club. And because I love techno music. And
Nice.
so yeah, but I live on the countryside. And so to like find a techno club, I had to travel to the next bigger city. And so I did that, you know, I drove there and everything. And, you know, when does this start? Like in the middle of the night, like the party started at 11 p.m. And I'm like, at this point, after a year of not doing that, and I'm like, 11 p.m. Like I'm usually asleep at the time, you know? And so like it's been two times before that I told myself, okay, I'm gonna do this because I miss the old times, right? I used to do this all the time in London, and I really had always such a good time because I love dancing, I love techno music, so, and I just love being there. So I was like, and then the two times I would always like cancel, like no, like I can't do this, I'm too old for this and whatever. But yesterday I was like, no, I'm gonna do it because I really, really want to do it. And I missed it so much. And so I went and it was like horrible. And I'm just this because I was sober and I was surrounded by just these young people all on drugs and drunk and everything. And I just sat there and I mean I still had a good time because I was just embracing the situation that I saw myself and I was like, okay, this is not me anymore. Like this version of me that was still holding on to that, because I was like I was associating going to the club, going partying, going like I was associating that with fun and with amazing times and fun times. And then yesterday I sat there by myself, like thinking to myself, I'm so tired. I don't want to be here. What am I doing here? And I was just literally, I wasn't having a good time at all. I mean, I kind of still had a good time because I was laughing about myself this whole time. I was just like,
That's so
why am I
funny.
still holding on to this version of myself? Right. But it was such a good, in that sense, such an amazing experience because I realized that this version of me has died. And
Mhm.
not to say that it didn't have its purpose, I did have great times, but if I did the same things that I was doing back then, now I would not have good times, if you know what I mean. I've moved on from that.
Yeah.
I'm not that person anymore. So it was just really cool to see and to just detach as well and to say, okay, this is in the past and let's just book it under, yeah, good times back in the day. But
Yeah.
now it's different. Now I have other good times.
And you're lucky. You said you live in the countryside?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's like my goal because I live in San Jose, so it's a city, but I live closer to like the hillside. But my dream is to actually have a little farm.
Yeah.
I have like in my head, in my vision, I have like mountains. I'm surrounded by mountains. There's a lake. I have chickens. I have
Yeah.
bees making honey. And with my family, they come over. I mean, I'm thinking about my kids when they're older. They come over. We have like dinner. I'm cooking. I love cooking. I'm cooking all the time. And I'm just sitting there in like a rocking chair or whatever, and outside furniture, and then just looking at the sunset, and here so you can actually see the stars, and that's what I want to experience. That is like my ultimate goal is to live somewhere like that. So you're
Yeah.
lucky.
Yes, I know I am. I know I am. And yeah, I'm so with you. Like so for me, my perfect dream is to live in a house in the woods, surrounded by trees, and there's no one else except for my house.
Nice.
And and I'm living there with my husband and my children and just have like a studio in the top where I do my art and yeah, just like a simple but beautiful life, but also in having like a little garden and like growing my own herbs and all of that. And I'm with you.
Yes, and I'm just thinking about this too. Is like a lot of people that are living in like the countryside, they're closer to God, I think, because the ones that are living like in the cities, more of the man-made stuff, electronics, tech this, tech that, we're so disconnected from God.
Yes. And it's so funny because isn't it like we think nowadays we're more connected than we ever were, which is to some degree true, like through Instagram, through Facebook, all of that, so you can connect with her. But we're also so disconnected from actually that person next to us. I mean, we might be connected via social media, but and also where's the connection to the higher versions of us? Although I think obviously we are heading towards that again, but um yeah, I think also like because I lived in London for 6 years, and I also that was another thing that my higher self, like I swear to God, that was the thing my higher self did. She was like, and I called her she because I'm a her.
Yeah.
And so it's like um so she was like, so like wanting me to leave London so badly. I felt so weird suddenly, and I broke up with my ex and everything, and then I was like, okay, I need to leave London, and it wasn't because it was like I just knew I had to leave. There was something within me, and I knew I had to come back to Germany, to the countryside, and and I think because here, obviously like the air is better, and you just also there's many different reasons you back to your roots and all that, but it really felt like you said, you feel closer to God here for some reason.
Yeah, you do, and that's so beautiful. And everyone's going to get there eventually. We're in the process of this whole evolution, you know.
And that's the other thing, enjoy the process. Like, don't wish yourself to be where you're not, and you're like, oh, I wish I was already there. Just that's another thing. Like, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride.
Yes, and because I think, yeah, like I think you were saying this in your podcast too, is that we're here to learn things. We're here to learn and to experience and to create and to
Yep,
love. And if we do it all together, because we're all one, we are one. We're not divided. We are
yep,
all one. Um, the world's going to change, and I think we're here to help the world change. Honestly.
absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I love speaking with you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would love to share with listeners?
Um, yeah, maybe guys, just honestly, wherever you're at, celebrate yourself, be happy. I know sometimes we're like stuck in this, maybe we're stuck in addiction, maybe we are just feeling really shit. Trust me, that's the other thing. Everyone is going through this. No one actually has figured out. We're all on the path, we're all on our own journey. No one's perfect, and you're perfect the way you are, and you're exactly where you need to be. And you know, you'll get where you want to be if you believe in yourself.
Beautiful. Yes. And where can people find you? Are you on social media?
Yeah, I'm actually only on Instagram, really. I'm not really into any of the other platforms. So on Instagram, I'm at From Fear to Flow. That's also my podcast. So that's on Spotify and iTunes. So if you want to listen there. So yeah,
Nice. Oh, thank you so much, Sunny. It was so nice to meet you.
thank you so much, Gina. I had such a blast. Thank you for having
Of
me.
course.